Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. And normally I don't buy comic books because they're kind of quote-unquote undervalued. I really buy comic books. I kind of follow my heart and buy what I love, buy all those characters and covers that I was really nostalgic for as a kid. That's normally the way I kind of go about it, but I think getting a list of, sort of quote-unquote undervalued comics in your head, for whatever reason it might be, is just a really good exercise to have. And then usually if you get a good list, by the end of the list, you pick one or two of your favorites for, that you love the most out of the list. And those end up being, maybe some comics that you could buy, right? So, want to mention one comic really quick because I make notes for these type of videos over kind of a week or two, and I was making notes for an undervalued type of video. You know what? I included in those notes Avengers 196, the first full Taskmaster, which, doing some research for this video, before this whole announcement came out yesterday, a good price for that book, I was getting about $900, kind of $800 to $900, and there's only 178 CGC 9.8s out there in the book. So, that would have been such a great buy like a month or two ago, because obviously the Black Widow trailer came out yesterday or the day before, and Taskmaster is the villain, looking really cool. And I'm seeing CGC 9.8s on the net now pushing $2,000 and buy it nows. So, not a book that I would recommend now on an undervalued list, unfortunately. But I have about 6 books here and some honorable mentions. Okay, so yeah, let's get right into it. First book is Ultimate Fallout 4, a book I've mentioned before kind of in the past month or two here. A book that I bought in the past month or two as well. And sort of out of modern books, I think this is kind of, a book to get. It's sort of an obvious pick, not really like an undervalued pick. But, let's just look on the census really quick for it. There's 1,229 CGC 9.8s. And when compared to Edge of Spider-Verse number 2, which is first Spider-Gwen, and NYX number 3, which is first X-23, there's actually more 9.8s in both of those issues than this issue, which is, you'd think that's pretty odd, actually. This just being first Spider-Man, like you'd think there'd be more out of the first new Spider-Man, Miles Morales. And Ultimate Fallout 4 is the first Miles Morales, new Spider-Man. CGC 9.8 ratio, 29%. That's the lowest out of those other 2 issues, too, so lower the better. Out of all graded copies of Ultimate Fallout 4, 29% are CGC 9.8s. But right now for this issue, why is it undervalued? After, for the last 2 years, seeing this book go for like $450, $400, even some over $500 during that Into the Spider-Verse movie, I picked up this book for $354, and I've seen some go for under $350 in the past couple months here. So I think this is just pulling back in price. It's getting into a good buy zone here. And, again, first appearance of Miles Morales. We're in between sort of Into the Spider-Verse movies. There's going to be another one of those. The first one did so good. So, now's the time to buy this issue, because when those movies come out, it's going to be kind of a Taskmaster situation where this issue is really going to get elevated in price when the new Into the Spider-Verse movie comes out. And, to a lesser extent, Edge of Spider-Verse 2, first appearance of Spider-Gwen, I think is also like a really good kind of undervalued buy, because you're going to buy now and then you're going to enjoy kind of the price increases when that next Into the Spider-Verse movie comes out. So, next undervalued pick I got here out of the list is an X-Men number 121, Uncanny X-Men number 121. First full appearance of Alpha Flight. And, just look on the census here really quick for this book too. 284 CGC 9.8s. And 12.7% is the CGC 9.8 ratio. So of all graded copies, only 12.7% or 9.8. So, and this is a white pages one. A lot of these, when you get into the set, like 1979 here, a lot of these books aren't white pages. So kind of gives it another notch, being that there's only 284 CGC 9.8s for this book. 12.7% the CGC 9.8 ratio. That's an investment grade 9.8 ratio, I would say. Once you get close to 10, that's getting really good. But, I think for the thing with this issue, I think, is, X-Men 121. There's X-Men 129, which is the first Kitty Pryde. And then there's the issue before this, which is the kind of brief appearance cameo of Alpha Flight. Both of those issues are a lot more in the 9.8s. I know, like, 129, I've seen them go for kind of 1,300-ish. Well, it kind of went well into the 1,000s for both of those issues. Whereas this issue and kind of a buy it now will sell for about 700. If you get, seeing it in an auction, you might even be able to get it kind of 500 to 600-ish. I think that's a really good buy for this issue. Yeah, just a great cover. And considering those other issues are a lot more expensive, whereas I just think this issue is almost equivalent to those, I think, in many respects, and even kind of better in some. And, all the time with a first appearance, the first full appearance is always usually the ones that the collectors gravitate to. So this is the first full appearance. And it's got a really awesome cover. Dave Cockrum covers are just classic X-Men. Classic, like, kind of late 70s, early 80s X-Men. New Team X-Men. And the white cover too, so it's pretty hard to find in a high grade, I think. And I'm really happy with this copy in my collection. It's a perfect copy, flat, white pages, with the white cover. You'd think they're perfectly centered, like you'd think there'd be some flaws with the white cover, but I'm just so happy with that purchase. Okay, that's my number 2 pick. Number 3 pick here. It's actually a book that I do not have, but I kind of have a book that I have, kind of secondary pick we can look at. And a book I kind of recommend too. This is Wolverine 88, but the book I really want to recommend as kind of an undervalued CGC 9.8 is Marvel Comics Presents number 72. That's the origin of Wolverine, and it's the beginning of the Weapon X saga, kind of the origin of Wolverine, beginning of Weapon X saga. So on the CGC census for that one, there's 373 9.8s. The CGC 9.8 ratio is 47.9%. And this is an early 90s book. So, that CGC 9.8 ratio at 47.9% is going to be a little bit more up there than, some of the 80s books and late 70s books. But, Origin of Wolverine. I kind of wish this book had a cooler cover somewhat. The Marvel Comics Presents number 72. This cover is awesome. But, kind of wish this book had a cooler cover. I think it'd be a lot more popular if it did. Origin of Wolverine with a really cool cover, beginning of the Weapon X saga. The cover's a bit underwhelming. I think it's like a wraparound cover. But still, Origin of Wolverine, this book is one I missed out on actually trying to buy the other day. And what was it? I bid $96 and I ended up going for like 97 or 98 or something like that. So you're looking at about $100 for the Marvel Comics Presents number 72 and a CGC 9.8, and that's the Origin of Wolverine. Like, I just think Origin of Wolverine for $100 is like a great buy, even if the cover might be a bit underwhelming. A great kind of undervalued buy. This one is the first battle of Wolverine and Deadpool. Wolverine number 88. Great cover. Classic 90s book, came out in 1994. If you like kind of the Wolverine series like I do, and you're even somewhat of a Deadpool fan, I feel like this is probably the one book to get. Like, if you're a Wolverine and Deadpool fan together, this is like the book to get. I think it's undervalued too. It's not really a key, but maybe a secondary key I would call it. But I think it's got potential over time to just kind of be, that first battle with Wolverine and Deadpool was such a great cover, and not a lot of people know about it too. So, fourth issue here for undervalued recommendations is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 51, and this one's in the first print. I'll say that I'll recommend the first print and the retail incentive version, which is a Kevin Eastman sketch cover. But this issue, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 51, is the first appearance of Jennika in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics. She eventually becomes the female Ninja Turtle. But this is her first appearance as she was introduced as a Foot Clan soldier, and then, kind of had periodic appearances throughout, the kind of ongoing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic until issue 95, where she becomes a Ninja Turtle by taking Leonardo's blood. But this is her first overall appearance, and I think, we'll just look on the CGC census really quick. There's 20 of these in the 9.8, so not a lot of them. And the 9.8 ratio is 74%. So for a modern book, the 9.8 ratio a little bit less important because they're all really in good shape. The retail incentive, there's 22 9.8s. So 20 in the first print. Retail incentive, which is usually a little more rare, has 22. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I have 2 of these. So I have 2 of these 20 CGC 9.8s of this book. And yeah, so this is first appearance of Jenica in Teenage Mutant Ninja. Notice they haven't kind of put it on the label yet. I think she was just such a minor character at first. It was, not something that, maybe it's something that they're talking about now, maybe putting it on the label as her first appearance in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics. But I think right now, when you see NYX number 3, first X23, and the CGC 9.8 is like $800, $750, whatever it is. And then you see first Spider-Gwen in the first print. And that's like $400, $350, maybe even a little bit more if in certain buy nows. Whereas this book, the first female Ninja Turtles appearance in comics is, I picked up mine for less than $100. One was $100 on the dot, and the other one was like 77 US dollars. Both kind of CGC 9.8 blue labels in the first print. So I just think this is a book that has potential. You never know what's going to happen, and but I just think it's got potential. The first movie with Jenica in it or something like that. I feel like these will be going for a lot more than $100. I just have a feeling, and when you see that NYX and those other kind of lady version superheroes out there with their comics just blowing up, I think this is just a good opportunity. And right now you want to kind of grab this for $100, and there's kind of, I feel like there's kind of a lot of, for lack of a better word, hate out there for, it's just like, oh, all those people, it's not creative to just make the female version of the character. And I mean, in a sense, I kind of agree with that in some ways, but still, some characters are cool, and there's still books with cool covers, and I'm not I don't have any bad feelings towards ladies or anything like that. So I think some men are like that. So I think it's just better, embrace these opportunities of these first female characters rather than being a bit of a stickler and going, oh, it's so uncreative just to, create all these new female characters. And even if you kind of think that way, it's still, some of these covers are still really cool, and I think they're still really collectible. And just from an opportunity standpoint, when you see other female character books first appearances that are so expensive, you just want to get in before that. So I think it's the smart thing to do rather than complaining. Next book is a kind of off the charts kind of book here. I chose a Detective number 583, which is the first appearance of Scarface and the Ventriloquist, who's a really cool Batman villain. And if you don't know who he is, it's kind of this psychotic guy with the glasses that holds the Scarface dummy, who's the little gangster Scarface dummy with the Tommy gun usually. Yeah, really a kind of wicked, wacky villain. But, more so than sort of just focusing on one issue, kind of for this one, I'd recommend just sort of any sort of obscure Batman villain from sort of the modern to Copper Age. Because I think in the Batman movie that's going to be coming out next year, apparently there's going to be lots of villains in them. So, in the movie. So, I think just right now, Batman villains are so cool anyway, so just to have them is cool. But it's a bit of a wild card where, if you just buy first appearances of villains, then, you might have a chance that the villain will pop up in a movie and then the price will pop and you can kind of enjoy the price increase at that time. But for this, Batman 583, there's 88 CGC 9.8s in the world, so only 88 of these. And the 9.8 ratio is 34%, so this is a 1988 book, so it's not bad. That's a pretty high ratio for an 88 book, to be honest, but this is more of a lesser of the 9.8s rather than a ratio type book. First appearances of kind of obscure Batman villains before this Batman movie next year, I think is a good call. I love this cover. I think this is a really kind of a cool, obscure one to get. I paid $250 for this one. Being that there's only, this one looks amazing too. It's perfectly centered, color's awesome, white flat pages, perfect. $250. I've seen them go for $275, but since there's only 88 out there, what was it? 88. it is kind of one that this was an opportunistic buy for me. It was in Canada, so cheap shipping too. Yeah, I think if you can get that for under $250, that's a really good. Oh yeah, so just talking about other Batman villains, like that Batman 666 that I just recently bought with First Professor Pig. That could be one. One that comes to mind is First Anarchy from Detective. I think it was like 608 maybe or something like that. First Anarchy. And another one even like First Hush, which is 609 with kind of the Poison Ivy Catwoman cover too. Jim Lee. That's kind of a cool one too. That's under $100 in the CGC 9.8 as well. Like First, I've kind of thought at times of buying that book. But yeah, just any, underfollowed sort of Batman villain, I think it's a good time to buy now. Maybe get a pop into the movie. And, Batman villains, I think in the Copper Age in the modern age are just kind of, in general, kind of undervalued a bit. I think if you can get a really good price on them, be patient. So next book here. So kind of somewhat more eclectic picks, I guess you could say so far. But next book is Amazing Spider-Man, number 361. First full appearance of Carnage. An obvious pick, and I kind of left them off camera because as an undervalued pick, this is a really obvious pick because I think most collectors wouldn't think it's undervalued at all. And but for me, I think this could really be a case of kind of, if you ever talk to Bronze Age collectors, they say Hulk 181 is like a widely available book. There's quite a lot of them, and for Bronze Age books of that year, quite a lot of them in nice grades. But the cover is just so awesome, and you get first full appearance of Wolverine. That book has just exploded, regardless of how rare or not it is. And I think this is another book that will, at some point, that will happen to it, or could happen to it. It's got the potential for that to happen where, yeah, I just think the price could blow up because I think this is the probably most 90s coolest cover of the 90s. And then you get the first full appearance of Carnage, which I think being in between the Venom movies, going into Venom 2, where Carnage is going to be in that one, you got that wild card again and again. Plus, I just think this is the Hulk 181 of the 90s, basically. There's a lot on the CGC census, so, 3,246 CGC 9.8s in the blue label. That's quite a lot. And 27% is a CGC 9.8 ratio, which is pretty low, actually, for the 90s. So that's, you kind of got that going for it, kind of average to low 9.8 ratio. But, yeah, I think this is just a book where rather than looking at limited numbers and thinking about that, it's just all about the coolness of the cover and the coolness of and the first full appearance of Carnage. And I think it's got potential, especially that wild card is that if this Venom 2 movie really, really does well. And yeah, such a, I thought of not including it and being a little more like eclectic and underfollowed with the picks, but yeah, I think just, for those kind of reasons relating it to Hulk 181, I think it is just one of those books that has that classic cover, has that first full appearance of a great character. Very similar to Hulk 181. It's not really rare on the census, so, it's not really like, if you talk to Bronze Age people, Hulk 181 not really rare either. So, yeah, even though it's super obvious, and I think a lot of people buy first full appearance of Carnage, but I think, if you're a serious collector and you kind of neglect first full appearance of Carnage because there's a lot on the census type of thing, I'd recommend to buy it, basically. Yeah. So for some of the similar reasons to Amazing Spider-Man 361, Amazing Spider-Man 252, and in general too, I don't know if it's the same for the symbiote books, but I think just kind of Spider-Man books are pulling back in price a little bit. So I think for this book, and maybe I should mention prices for first full appearance of Carnage. I think in the direct edition, you're looking anywhere from like $300 to $400, and in the newsstand edition, kind of $350 to $450, all depending on how good it looks, how centered it is, and everything. But for this book, saw a couple go for under $400 in the last few weeks here for Amazing Spider-Man 252 and the CGC 9.8, under $400. Whereas, I've seen a lot of these go for over $500 and go for $450 was quite a popular price for kind of these books, especially in the newsstand. $450 was a price you'd see a lot. But going under for $400, I think you want to take advantage of kind of the pullback in price for this book. And yeah, it is, a black costume, tied for the first black costume, but it's also that Amazing Fantasy 15 cover homage. So kind of the first big cover homage of Amazing Fantasy 15. And, that Amazing Fantasy 15 book is the hottest book in comics, basically. First appearance of Spider-Man. So, yeah, just a book, I think, a classic cover is timeless. And with the pullback in price, that is the reason why, I recommend it on kind of an undervalued list. There's 1,169 CGC 9.8s, and 11.6% of all graded copies are 9.8. So that's a really good kind of investment grade CGC 9.8 ratio. So yeah, with the pullback in price around, like if you can get that around $350, you're laughing for Amazing Spider-Man 252. Even for a really nice copy, I would pay like a solid $400 for like a really nice centered and a nice colored Amazing Spider-Man 252. Okay, so those are my main kind of picks, and I got some honorable mentions here. Okay, but I'll go over the list again. Ultimate Fallout number 4, and they're all kind of in the CGC 9.8, obviously. Ultimate Fallout number 4, first Miles Morales. X-Men number 121, first full appearance of Alpha Flight. Marvel Comics Presents number 72, Origin of Wolverine. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 51, first appearance of Janica. Detective 583, first appearance of Scarface and the Ventriloquist. Or your favorite Batman villain issue. Amazing Spider-Man 361, first Carnage. Amazing Spider-Man 252, first black costume. Amazing Fantasy cover homage. So honorable mentions. I wouldn't say this one's like an undervalued pick, but I just think it's like a really great book to have, and kind of a lot of people think of it as, a great comic to kind of invest and collect in. But Batman Beyond number 1, and I recommend this book quite a bit. But in the CGC 9.8, yeah, I think there's only about 150 on the census. First appearance of Batman Beyond, Terry McGinnis in comics, and such a cult following for that series. And even though I saw one sell a couple weeks ago for $475 in the CGC 9.8 for Batman Beyond number 1. So I wouldn't say it's undervalued, but I just think that's a really cool one to have. And if they ever came out with a Batman Beyond movie, I think this book will fly over $500, and I think we'll certainly maybe even push 1,000 in that type of environment. Speaking of Batman villains, Batman Vengeance of Bane is the first origin and first full appearance of Bane. Now, yeah, Bane was already in kind of a Batman movie, the Dark Knight Returns, so I don't think he's going to be in the upcoming Batman movie, but this is a book where I've had people tell me during that Dark Knight Rises, this was over $300, this book. And I bought mine for like $220 something, and sometimes I see them go for less than that, maybe a little more. But yeah, Batman Vengeance of Bane, I think, is a really good one. I'm really close to adding this one on the list almost, with Silver Surfer number 44, first appearance of the Infinity Gauntlet. And we had so many movies with the Infinity Gauntlet, and this book always was over $200 pretty much during that time. But now I've seen auctions basically in the 150s sell for, and that's how much I bought one of mine for. It was like $156. The other one I bought during Avengers Endgame, and it was like $230, $220. So it gives you an idea of, you don't really want to buy during a movie or a kind of promotion-filled environment. Usually you'll pay more. But yeah, nonetheless, I still think in around 150 first Infinity Gauntlet is a good buy. Yeah, we did Batman Vengeance of Bane. X Factor number 6 would I think, be an undervalued buy too right now. Not a lot of hype around Apocalypse. First full appearance of Apocalypse, this one. And, I just think, obviously Apocalypse was in that X-Men movie quite a while ago, and this issue has had a lot of time to cool down. So I think if you can, I saw one sell for $220 on last week's video, I think it was, but if you can get it closer to $200, I think that's, a decent undervalued buy too in the CGC 9.8 for around $200. And yeah, just in general, my last recommendation would be like Batman comics in general. Brought up, first Scarface and the Ventriloquist here. And like on the census for this Batman comic, there's 88 CGC 9.8s. So I just think Batman comics in general, there's always way less 9.8s in general for like a lot of cool first appearances. So compared to like an Amazing Spider-Man, I'm kind of thinking more Spider-Man and Marvel related books. So Batman comics in general, I just think, whatever issue you really love from the 80s and 90s, that's kind of an affordable CGC 9.8. Be patient on them and try to get a good price, and then I think that's a really good undervalued CGC 9.8 book to buy. Okay, you know what? There was so many ways I could have went with this video that it was kind of hard to narrow it down, honestly, to 6 or 7 books. And yeah, I wish I was able to add Avengers 196, the first Taskmaster. But yeah, I think right now you just don't want to buy that book, basically. Yeah, some of the buy it now prices are quite ridiculous right now after that announcement, compared to the completed listing prices from like 2-3 months ago. Yeah, which were basically about $900, I would say, for that book in the CGC 9.8. I think, yeah, that would have been a really good like investment grade buy, kind of in the past year before this Black Widow. I kind of wish I made a video on that saying to let everyone know to buy it, kind of. But that'll be all for today's video. I'd invite everyone, if you haven't already, join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8 and click the bell, get all their latest notifications. Add me on Instagram and Twitter too. Message me on Instagram. More active on Instagram, to be honest. So add me on Instagram and send me a message if you'd like to talk about anything. But thank you very much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. 600 followed picks with a couple honorable mentions and everything. So thank you very much for watching. Thanks for all the support and the comments and everything. I'll see you on the next video.